Hi there, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Art Review. Today we're going to be talking about Doc Shawner. Shawner. Yes, I hope I didn't write his name wrong. That would have been really bad for me. So, we are going to talk about his art. Now, I mainly know him from being somebody who's worked for DC, but I know that he's done some other stuff, and I will be showing you a little bit of it. Uh, Clearly, oh, car. Okay, that's something. Uh, so most of you probably know that he's clearly done Future Quest. That's pretty obvious, I think. It was something that I was going to buy, but I actually didn't because it didn't feel like much of something that I would really enjoy, not because of his art, but just the general terms of what the story was about. Now, I also know that he's done Flash Gordon. He has some stuff on Shazam or Captain Marvel, if you like to call him that. Clearly, that's not a name. Some Superman stuff, and we're just going to look at what he's done so far. Let's get into it. Yeah, links will always be in the description for his media if you want to check out what he is doing. We're going to start by amazingly, and I bet you didn't expect by this. And I personally haven't read it. It's not that I don't like it. Once again, Flash Gordon is not one of my favorites personally, but it's something that I've heard is really good. So here's how he does him. Now, every single piece of his art, it looks very much like 90s art for me. Simplistic lines, not shadows. Just the way that he makes the characters, the faces, which are very simple, the eyes. Almost in all of them, I will show you the eyes are small and they're not realistic, or at least they don't try to follow like that. Uh, but it still has this great look of the perfect man and sometimes perfect woman, which I will show you. Now, here's what I was mentioning. You can clearly see, for example, even when they're open in Superman, the eyes are still very, unrealistic, small, but they give it another look. And with everything in this drawing, you are taken back in time. Now, not as back as 2014. You're taken even more back to the 90s, probably, maybe a little bit before. It's not something that I would see as bad in his art because it's something that I probably could get into. I just haven't. First of all, like I said, I was going to get Future Quest. I just didn't because of the way that the story goes. Maybe I'll get his Shazam Convergence comic, but who knows? I mean, it's just a term of maybe in the future I will get into some of his stuff. Not right now, in terms of money, but it's something that I quite enjoy. It's very simplistic. It's very he puts an old feel into it. For example, if you look at the drawing, the reds, the blues, the general shade, it's not extremely red, it's not extremely blue. It has, this little static in it, which makes it, look like something that's not from 2014 or 2017. It's way back because nowadays we can just put, the red has red and the blue has blue, where back in the days a comic would have stuff like this. It wouldn't be extremely just one color, it had a little static in it. Now, I really do think that his art really fits Captain Marvel more than any character uh, that I will be presenting for him. I really would love that he remained as a Captain Marvel artist, because I think it really fits the character and it really fits the artist to do something like that. And Doc, if you see this, which you probably won't, I would love for you to do this. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to, it doesn't mean that, he won't fit into other stuff, but I just see a lot of potential on him doing this character, especially because this is a character that, unlike Superman, which, he grew up over the times, people have grabbed Marvel and they haven't done him justice, which for me, Doc is the person that has done him the most justice. It's a character that I don't want to see growing up to be the next Superman. It's a character that I want to see, growing up to be this perfect man, and, to be the kid that he was. I just enjoy seeing him like this, portrayed like this, with an old and newish kind of style, because it really fits the character itself. It fits the time that the character is supposed to be in. Here's another piece. Also, like this one a lot. There are some issues that I have with the face. For example, the side of the eyes, where he puts two uh, wrinkles in there. Well, it's not too bad. I just don't enjoy that part. Uh, Probably, he looks a little bit old, but the rest of it looks really nice, simplistic. Lines are perfect. It really just gives you a feel of a great sense of anatomy, for example, even though it's not, completely shown. You can understand that, the leg is supposed to be that size. Upper and lower is really, nice. The leg at the front and the other leg at the back having a small difference, and just the arm itself making the character look like that. It's a nice piece of art. It doesn't need extreme lines. With it being simple, it just makes it, look great. Now, here's what I was going to say about this piece is that, like I said before, Perfect Man and Perfect Woman, I really like the way that he does it. Now, this might remind some people of what was it? Square Girl? Squirrel Girl. Yeah, there we go. I'm sorry about that, because my brain just stopped for a second and I couldn't say squirrel. Because she has the face kind of similar, or at least it reminds me of some of the art in Squirrel Girl. Now, it has nothing to do with it, because Squirrel Girl, when you look at it, the anatomy is kind of flawed, at least for me. But I really enjoy this piece that he's done, because he doesn't do Squirrel Girl. I'm just noticing that there is some similarity between his art and the art of the person who does Squirrel Girl, which is both of them are doing it simplistic. Now they're doing it very different ways, which in one, the anatomy is putting it to the extreme. It's not perfected, while on his side, the anatomy is pretty good. There are some small flaws to it, but it's not something that really bothers me. The colors are, sometimes he points out to a color more than to the other. For example, over here, the yellow is more important than the reds, even though when you go to see Marvel, like we saw at the back, the red is more important than the yellow. Now, this has to do with the fact that this red, it's more female. It's kind of more pinkish than it is red. Although I think that her costume is red. If I'm not wrong, if I'm wrong, I'm so sorry. Moving on, I'm going to show you some Superman art because, Superman is super close to Captain Marvel, and I'm also going to explain why I prefer his Captain Marvel to his Superman. Now, there are some anatomy flaws in here, at least from my perspective. First of all, the leg that is going down, when it goes from the back to the leg, you can see that, it goes kind of super straight, and the leg muscle is, well, not that defined. I dislike that. It's not exactly an anatomy flaw, it's just, it makes it look weird going straight from the back, a little, a little bump, and then entering into the leg like that doesn't feel right. The knee doesn't feel right, but then the other leg kind of looks okay. Now, why do I like Captain Marvel more than I like his Superman? Here's the reason. In case you look, Superman has grown up through the years and has become a very well-known character with a certain style which is more to the realistic than it is to the animated. And Doc Shauner's art is more animated than it is realistic. Although the anatomy is perfected, his art does not follow certain rules that realistic art follows. Now, realism, I'm not talking about extreme one where, it has to look just like real life. I'm talking about realistic in the terms of semi-realism, where it kind of looks more realistic than it looks cartoonish, which is what we had not long ago. Maybe in the 2000s things started changing, but it wasn't that long ago for the history of comics. Now, that is one of the reasons why I think that he should stick to a character that's more cartoonish than to a character that has changed over the years. Now, not all Supermans have been, super realistic, but there are changes in the character that you can clearly see through the times, and I feel like most of them have turned to become something different, something not stuck in the 90s, which, for example, Marvel is stuck in the 90s, because his character for me doesn't have the same meaning that the other characters do. It hasn't been worked on like the others, which is a shame, and I would really like, for example, someone like Doc to pick it up as an artist and just make him the character that he's supposed to be. While these characters don't exactly need his art to follow through because they already have, some great artists on the lead, and those artists can already make those characters really good. Now, not that Doc doesn't make a great art. For example, if he picked up Superman for me, I would totally be excited. I would totally read it. No problem with that. But I know a lot of people who would not read it because, his art is a throwback in time, and it's something that they probably wouldn't want to pick up again. Now, here we have now some people are going to complain about this anatomy, which is the face being so large with something so spaced. I can see some people having issues with that, because they like faces that are smaller. Maybe the chin is too lower. I can kind of see some issues, but for me, it still looks good. It still looks correct. The only issue that people probably won't notice, but I really notice in this, is the arm on the left. Hello, the arm goes and gets really small when it comes to the hand. I think it would have been better if he just didn't put the line there and just made the arm, kind of be forgotten under his chest. Now I want to show you this image of Superboy that he did. it looks pretty good. It's not the one that we are used to. We are used to him a little bit younger, maybe, but this looks like he's in his mid 20s. It's not something that I dislike. It actually looks a lot like Superman, which kind of confused me when I first looked at it. But I'm pretty sure this is Superboy, not Superman. And the reason why I think that is the hair and the shirt. Now, there is clearly nothing that takes it back to it's not Superman. Because if you look closer at it, the thing that he has is that almost every face kind of looks the same age. I think that he can do, younger, but in this case, his face is very close to Superman's face, especially on the side one. You can see a lot of traces being, Superman like. I wanted to show you this because I actually do like this drawing. It's very nice, although I don't know if I'd like to see him do it. Here's a piece of art of Batman, and it's my favorite kind of Batman, which I've said before in other episodes. This Batman is the very simplistic one where the armor is not there, and I love it without the armor. I love, it's just a skin tight suit, and he's the most powerful one. Now, I really like, the little Robin, uh, getting pulled up. It's very cute and very lovely to see something like that. Moving on, so I think that even though he mainly works on stuff that, it's DC styled, he could be both in DC or Marvel. And the only reason why I haven't said that, yet in this episode where his art fits DC, Marvel, or any other place is because his art fits in DC or Marvel. And why is it that his art fits so well in those two? And he's worked for Dynamite too, clearly, because as I showed you, he has a comic for Dynamite, uh, which he can work anywhere, but his art mainly fits in DC. Now, Flash Gordon, it looked good with his art, but I would like to see him in DC, and the reason why is that DC has grown up and the art has changed. It has become more realistic in some characters. It has remained the same for others. For example, I see that Batwoman not long ago, it changed a bit, but it didn't change too much. It didn't become extremely realistic. It still had a touch of cartoonish, and this is because Batwoman is a character that has a deep story behind her and is very stuck in her own world. While the reason why I think that Captain Marvel should have Doc's art is because Marvel is a kid, and when the character was made, the art was similar to that. It was very simple, 90s art, and I think he deserves an artist that reflects what the character is. And that's why I think that the art should be, you know, either DC or Marvel, but more to the side of DC, because Marvel has moved on to making not exactly realistic art. Now, don't take me wrong. Marvel's art is clearly not realistic, but it's not that simple. It's not art that takes you back in time. Even when they did, let me try to remember, X-Men '98. Uh, that art wasn't to bring you back to the old X-Men, was to bring you the new ones, which they wanted to implement in the old story. Now, I don't think they want to go back. Marvel is something that is, trying to move forward, while DC is something that tries to, move forward and at the same time give you something that you like. Not that Marvel doesn't do that. It's just my personal opinion of how I see the two companies. One of them is always trying to move forward and create new stuff, while the other one, even though DC is not the greatest and DC has done some mistakes. Sorry, dogs. That was very unfortunate. Uh, but while one is trying to do something and the other one is doing something else, both of them are following the thing that's like what the fans like. And I don't see a lot of fans. I see a lot of fans wanting to go back, but I don't see enough of them that will change Marvel. And Doc would probably fit in Marvel, which, like I said, but DC is right now what he would be great at least in my opinion of what DC is right now. Also, another art that he did, this looks more like a little sketch. It's still very cute, and I do like Hank a lot, so here you have a little piece of him. I mean, I think that this would look like a good piece of art, but as you guys probably are noticing, maybe not, you know, maybe it wouldn't fit too well with what they want. So I can clearly see a character looking like this in DC, but Marvel probably right now doesn't want anything like that. I mean, I know they are contracting people that some of you are hating, which is, the artists for Marvel, the artists for Marvel. I'm still thinking about Captain Marvel because I really wanted it to happen. The artists for America and the artists for Squirrel Girl, I noticed that they've been getting some hate, and I don't want to say what my position is, but pretty much I don't hate either of them. They're just different artists. Now, you think that Marvel is, trying to just hire the people who, they have to pay less. That's probably not what's going on. They are hiring people who can draw differently. Doc Shaner is something who can draw what has been drawn before. Not in a bad sense, in an actually good one. Because, like I said, I don't hate his art, I actually enjoy it, but it brings me back to a time in the past. It's not that his art is stuck there. He probably could do, if they ever did it again, like I'm showing here, the X-Men, like in the old ones. I think, what was it? Sons of the Atom? Yeah, I think it's that title. He could probably do it really well. I don't think that they are interested in doing it again, so that's something. While DC, they are hiring artists who are known. For example, when they changed Aquaman to Stepan, it was a very nice decision because they brought a lot of, fans into it. And I bet you if they brought Doc to doing Captain Marvel, they would totally, and not even kidding, they would get a lot of people loving it because it's a character that they haven't touched, and who doesn't like Shazam in their life? So, lastly, I wanted to show you this piece that he did because I love Hellblazer, and once again, I could see him doing this for DC. Mostly because Hellblazer doesn't have a defined art. It has changed throughout the times that he's been. I've read the 300, so I know that art is something that just changes. I think we had about some 30 artists doing the Hellblazer. So, it's not something that is just, stuck there. But that was Vertigo. Now he is DC, and in DC we have seen two artists. One of them I really dislike, and The other one, which was good, was the new 52 one. But now the new one, it has been a disgrace. Totally. It does remind me of a lot of Doc, for example, because the art is very simplistic, but it's not well done. While I would like to see, you know, him looking like that, the one that is running right now from Hellblazer is, well, it's not as great as it would be with Doc's art. So that stays in the air. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you had fun, and I will see you around on the next one. And I see that none of you have been liking or subscribing. That's kind of sad. Please do. I would enjoy it very much. Thank you for watching. Boop boop.